So today I will present our work SelectFuzz, and this is a joint work with my supervisor Meng and my colleague Penghui. Fuzzing, a powerful vulnerability detection technique, includes coverage-based fuzzers like Angola and direct fuzzers like AlphaGo. Where coverage-based fuzzers aim to achieve high code coverage by testing the entire program. Direct fuzzers target predefined code locations, which are usually potentially vulnerable code areas, and comprehensively test the target code. Direct fuzzers have many applications, including reproducing non-crutches and verifying patches and validating the vulnerabilities detected by static analysis tools. Recently, many developers have employed this technique and successfully uncovered numerous vulnerabilities in complex software. Existing direct fuzzers can be categorized into two types. The first type of direct fuzzers adopts a new feedback metric called distance metric, which measures the input distance to the target code. And this metric also assigns more energy to the inputs that are closer to the target. For instance, the inputs visiting code blocks 1, 3, 6 are preferred compared to the inputs visiting code blocks 1, 2. And AlphaGo is a typical direct fuzzer that adopts the first approach. And the second approach prunes unreachable code paths to the target, and thus allowing it to only focus on fuzzing reachable code. And this approach was first introduced in Beacon and has shown to be highly effective and surpassing the performance of the first distance-based fuzzers. This is because it allows the fuzzer to concentrate on the only reachable code instead of the entire software. And now I will use an example to illustrate the limitation of the two techniques and motivate our work. In particular, I will show that uncovering new reachable code blocks is not equivalent to making progress in reaching the targets. And now let's consider a scenario where the target code is set at code block 5. And apparently, code block 5 is control dependent on code blocks 1, 3, 4. However, there could be additional code blocks on the reachable code path. And those code blocks are code blocks that the target code is not control dependent on. For instance, there could be an if statement around the code path from code block 1 to 3, with both its true and false branches leading to code block 3. Alternatively, there could be a code set that returns to the code block 3. In other words, there could be multiple the inputs can reach the target, the basic block 3 in multiple code paths from code block 1. And now let's consider a scenario where there is a seed input that it diverges from the target at code block 3. The fuzzer will generate new inputs from the seed inputs. Some inputs uncover the next control-dependent code, which is code block 4. And the newly uncovered code blocks are also highlighted using the red color. And meanwhile, some inputs may uncover other reachable code paths, other reachable code blocks around the path from code block 1 to code block 3. Note that the newly uncovered code blocks in this category are reachable, but they are not the code blocks on which the target code is control dependent. Additionally, there could be some inputs that uncover code blocks that are not reachable to the target code. In the following, we call the first type of inputs relevant inputs because their newly uncovered code blocks approach targets compared to their prior deviation points, which is code block 3. In contrast, the later two types of inputs, they all diverge from the targets at code block 3. In other words, they do not uncover such code block, and we call them irrelevant inputs. And now let's discuss the two techniques. The distance-based fuzzers would assign more energy to the first type of inputs because they are closer to the target code. However, the distance-based fuzzers would still consider all the types of inputs that uncover new code blocks as interesting inputs and insert them into the input queue. Even if the later two types of inputs they are irrelevant inputs, even distance-based fuzzers assign less energy to each irrelevant input. They could still allocate much energy in total because if the input queue rate initially contains primary irrelevant inputs. We have observed this commonly occurs because the majority of newly uncovered code blocks are irrelevant to the limited number of target code. Therefore, many new inputs that uncover new code blocks they just belong to the later two types of inputs. And Beacon implemented path pruning, and it only executes reachable code. And let's look at the input queue. The direct benefits of path pruning is that it could exclude the third type of inputs as they only uncover unreachable code blocks. However, the limitation of path pruning is that it cannot differentiate between the relevant inputs and the second type of inputs because they both uncover reachable code blocks. This means that even the input has reached the code block 4, we can still allocate significant energy to the inputs that early diverge from the target at code block 3 because it can continuously discover code blocks from code block 1 to code block 3. And in summary, though distance-based fuzzers allocate more energy to closer inputs, they would still explore the entire software. Given the limited number of targets and the huge code base of modern software, this approach is not very effective. The second approach is more effective because it only concentrates on the reachable code. However, it still wastes significant energy to fuzz the reachable but irrelevant code. Motivate this, we develop SelectFuzz to fuzz the relevant code, which refers to the code the entire code is control and data dependent on. To exclude other irrelevant code from fuzzing scope, we do not prune it as it may exist in the reachable code path. Instead, we selectively instrument such code. So I will continue to use this example to illustrate our idea. So look at the control flow graph. Although SelectFuzz will execute all the code, most code does not provide feedback to SelectFuzz. Actually, only the code blocks 1, 3, 4, 5 are instrumented for efficiently reaching the target code. And by instrumenting only such relevant code blocks, SelectFuzz receives feedback from only the relevant code blocks, although it may also execute numerous irrelevant code blocks. And therefore, SelectFuzz will not select the inputs that uncover only irrelevant code blocks, as such code blocks are not even visible during the fuzzing process. This allows SelectFuzz thus has no incentive in fuzzing the relevant code blocks, which in turn allow it to assign most energy to the relevant inputs. So compared to Beacon, SelectFuzz could keep approaching the target code instead of revisiting and testing the prior code blocks. In addition to the control-dependent code, we also consider the target code is data-dependent on. And this enhances SelectFuzz sensitivity to the executions that update program states at the target code. We identify such code using an interprocedural data flow analysis. And our proposed selective path exploration also complement to other approaches such as distance-based approaches. In SelectFuzz, we propose a new distance metric that identifies the relevant inputs that are more likely to reach the target code. And due to the time constraints, I will not delve into details here, and instead readers can track our paper for more details. In evaluation, we mainly evaluate the SelectFuzz effectiveness in triggering the vulnerabilities in target code. And we performed comparative evaluation against other direct fuzzers using the same setup. And we mainly answer the 3 main research questions. First is the performance results of SelectFuzz and other direct fuzzers. The second is that if and how SelectFuzz complement to other direct fuzzers. And third is how select path exploration help detect vulnerabilities in complex software. We selected the baseline AFL goal and the state of the other two Beacon. So SelectFuzz performed better than AFL goal in all cases, and it achieved a remarkable 10 times speed up in 5 cases. The speed up can be up to 46 times in your evaluation. Compared to Beacon, SelectFuzz and Beacon both improved AFL in all cases, and the improvements differs in different cases. We attribute this variation to the different angles of SelectFuzz and Beacons improving the direct fuzzing efficiency. Specifically, SelectFuzz still execute all the unreachable code, although it does not instrument the code coverage for unreachable code. It still execute all the unreachable code. This increased the time per run compared to Beacon. To demonstrate this, we implemented path pruning on SelectFuzz, testing only relevant code and determining the unreachable code path. The combination leads to the improvements to both SelectFuzz and Beacon. In particular, it improves the efficiency. It improves the single path pruning approach by over 5 times on average. We also conducted analysis to understand the factors that contributing to SelectFuzz significant improvements. First, SelectFuzz only instrument a very low portion of code. Therefore, SelectFuzz introduced very low instrumentation overhead compared to AlphaGo, which instrumented coverage and distance code for all code blocks. And second, SelectFuzz only explore relevant code, which constitutes about 2% of the total blocks, where Beacon explore all the reachable code blocks, which occupies about 12% of the code blocks. Our evaluation also includes several interesting case studies where SelectFuzz instrument less than 0.5% of total blocks, total base blocks, and triggers the vulnerabilities within 5 hours. Yet AlphaGo explores the entire software and triggers the same vulnerability using over 40 or 50 hours. To investigate SelectFuzz's ability to detect new vulnerabilities, we fuzz the latest version of popular software and set the root cause of their known vulnerabilities as the fuzzing targets. In total, we detected 14 new vulnerabilities caused by incomplete patches in the latest version of popular software. And the fuzzing time, we only use 72 hours fuzzing time and detect these vulnerabilities. Although SelectFuzz achieve good performance, it also has few limitations. And the first limitation is that we found SelectFuzz failed to trigger true clutches in our evaluation. This is because SelectFuzz failed to reach the target code due to it cannot generate inputs that satisfies complex constraints to the target code. In other words, SelectFuzz must be able to generate the inputs that reach the next control-dependent code before it can further select such inputs for further mutation. And achieving this could be difficult if the path constraints are complex to satisfy. And solving this problem requires advanced input mutation techniques such as simple execution or input or time tracking techniques. And these techniques are orthogonal and also complementary to our proposed techniques. The second limitation is that due to the limitations in static analysis, we may overestimate the data-dependent code. However, because of our new concept, SelectFuzz already rolled out a large portion of code from the fuzzing school. Therefore, we believe this limitation should be acceptable. In conclusion, we propose a new concept of relevant code, and we demonstrate its importance in direct fuzzing. And SelectFuzz greatly improves the fuzzing performance by narrowing down the fuzzing scope to only relevant code. And the artifacts and also the code will be released on this GitHub link. Thank you for your listening, and I will be willing to answer any questions.